Welcome to the Living Your Intentions podcast, where Jen seeks to inspire, motivate, and educate you to push past your limited beliefs, move out of your comfort zones, and achieve ultimate fulfillment by becoming a person for which you were created to be. On the podcast, Jen will interview inspiring thought leaders, motivational speakers, and mindset experts who have realized the importance of a positive mindset. You will hear from people who have dealt with incredible adversity. You will hear from people who espouse the law of attraction. And you will hear from people who are on a mission to inspire others to change their mindset, just as Jen is. So, without further ado, let's get started on the interview.
Hey there, intention seekers. Welcome to another episode of the Living Your Intentions podcast. My name is Jennifer Matthews, all the way from Perth, Australia, and I am joined today by our featured guest, Filippo Voltaggio. Filippo, author, speaker, life coach, and TV and radio host, has incorporated the years of experience from being in front of, behind, and on the little screen, the big screen, and live stages into everything he does. His passion has become incorporating all his gifts and using them for the good of many. From his singing, writing, hosting, or one-on-ones to many-on-ones, Filippo brings it all together to create a unique experience, all his own, for all to make their own. From his acclaimed radio shows and TV and film appearances and performances to his experiences in the world of business, working for a Fortune Top 3 company and later owning a boutique entertainment agency, to his study of human psychology and esoteric arts, Filippo has seen and experienced and learned so much about the human condition and the struggle to being our authentic selves. Filippo is a recent recipient of the President's Call to Service Award from President Barack Obama and is listed in the Cambridge Book of Who's Who. After receiving a degree from USCD in engineering management and being decorated in this business career with top awards and honours, Filippo went on to study the field of energetic healing and became an energetic alchemist, master and teacher, a Reiki master and teacher, a Theta practitioner healer, a reconnective healer, and an ordained minister. Oh my gosh, Filippo, you've been busy. How are you going?
I've been busy. I've been up at this for quite a while, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So I'm going well. How about you, Jen?
I'm doing pretty good. That was quite a mouthful, that, I'll tell you. But I'm really excited about getting into your story because I think you've got a lot of great content that you can offer the listeners. So now, I believe people connect with others best when they hear other people's stories. And I also believe people harness the power of the mind for many different reasons. Some use it to overcome past traumas and obstacles they've experienced, while others use it to push past their limited beliefs, move outside of their comfort zones, and reach for the stars. And then there are some people that use it for all these reasons. So, Filippo, can you tell us your story and how altering your mindset has actually allowed you to become the person you are today?
Well, in my opinion, there were two driving forces. One of them was I was very inquisitive, and I was also I used to notice a lot of things. So not only was I inquisitive, I'd look for answers, I'd ask for answers, and then I'd notice the answers that I got, or how I got the answers, or who they came from, or who they wouldn't come from. And so then I started to think, okay, so why didn't that person give me the answer? Do they not know the answer? Do they not want to give it to me? Do they not think I'm worthy? I'd ask all of these questions inside myself as to what was going on with that particular situation. In situations where I wasn't picked on the school team, or where I was teased, or where I was experiencing some difficulties or finding some joy that others didn't understand, I would ask around that, saying, how could I do this better? Or why do I like this? And so questions. The other side of it, and I alluded to it by saying when I wasn't picked on the team, or felt like an outcast, I became driven by notice me. I want people to notice me. I want people to pay attention to me. I'm getting no respect. So what do I have to do to get respect? So those were the drives to be the best at this, or to get an award at that, or get on stage for something, so that people would have to stop and listen to me and make sure that it's good, so they'll stay listening to me and want me back. So there were these two forces that drove me. On the one hand, I was inquisitive and I asked a lot of questions and I looked for answers. On the other hand, I needed the attention and I wasn't getting it, and so had to be in the spotlight. So much has changed for me, but thankfully, the inquisitive part, I'm still inquisitive.
Yeah, so that must be really interesting for your parents, because I know I was the same as a kid, and everything I had to know the answer to. And it was like, and I think it's really good because you're trying to learn about the world, and but sometimes people don't have the answer to it. And so when you were teased at school, so I assume, was this primary school or secondary school, or so how old were you? Were you like a teenager, or when you started realizing this?
Actually, from as far back as I can remember, through high school. Yeah.
Okay. So you felt like you needed that validation. You felt like you needed people to notice you and for you to stand out, because you weren't given that when you were at school.
Absolutely. I wasn't given it when I was at home either. So I was constantly looking for it. And there were various reasons. When I'm on stage and I'm telling stories, I like to share the story of growing up Italian American. So I had really bushy, curly, out of control hair. I happened to have buck teeth. I was overweight and I smelled like garlic. So no wonder nobody talked to me.
Coming from an Italian household, everything's garlic. Oh no. Yeah, it's I mean, you've gone from that stage and you've just done so much. I mean, is that what drove your mindset? Is you realized from a really young age that you had to change your mindset, or whereabouts did that come into it?
Well, I needed to have a mindset that I could control, because if I let the world control as it seemed to have been doing until I came to that realization, then the world around me was telling me I'm not important, I'm not seen, I shouldn't be seen. Worse than that, I'm a freak, or I'm weird, or I'm ugly, and so that was the internal dialogue that I adopted after the world showed me that as I perceived it. So the interesting thing is we could then get out of the environment. I ended up losing weight thanks to my parents. They helped me fix my teeth. As I started to find a hairstylist, my hair wasn't so bad looking, and on the contrary, I get compliments now. And so, but the external dialogue had already become the internal dialogue. So I could shut out anything the world said. And the irony was that at a certain point, the world started saying all these wonderful things to me. But the internal dialogue had been already assimilated from early childhood that I was not worthy, and I was an outcast, etc. So the drive continued to prove to other people, which I didn't need to because they were fine with me, but I had taken that internal dialogue that was once external and made it my own. And it wasn't until then the mindset became, I love myself for who I am in this moment, and what I can do better, I will, and what I can't, I'll accept. And what I could still have drive, I could still be inquisitive, I could still strive for exciting things in the world, but I have to do it with the foundation of I already love myself. I don't have to prove myself to myself or anybody else.
Absolutely. And that's incredibly important, that you've obviously managed to move past the limited beliefs that were established at a very young age. And that's something that I think we need to do so that we can sort of like move forward with things. And so you're a singer. And how long have you been singing for?
Well, interestingly enough, that's something else that supposedly I started pretty much right out of the womb. My parents used to say that as a baby, they would put me on the kitchen table or anywhere I was, and I would sing and and sort of danced for their friends and family. So I don't remember doing that, but I do remember from a very young age continuing that with actual songs, or playing at the piano and singing, and so it was something that I chose to develop. And it's interesting also because my father, who was a singer and had a beautiful voice, used to tell me that I didn't have an operatic voice, so I shouldn't sing because I don't have a good voice. And so it seemed that everything, this was the perfect storm for me to really work through so much stuff in order to get here. And so here is a really amazing place for me, and I relish it. And where here is from the radio show to the book I've authored, my first book, to the CDs, to the stage performances, to when I master ceremonies and all that. I feel like I get so much attention. I feel like I get so many applause and so much applause and so many kudos, that when I'm on stage presenting somebody or introducing a performance piece, or on radio interviewing somebody, I feel like it's all about them, and because I don't need it, I got it. Now I could give it all to them, and it becomes this amazing experience for me, and dare I say, for so many people that we interact with in that way.
Exactly. And so you're doing the Life Changes Network at the moment, and is that the radio show, or is that something else?
So, well, the Life Changes Network is a lot of things, and one of the biggest part of it right now is the Life Changes show. And so I am host of the show, and we have our co-host and producer and the nice team that's growing to help grow this show, where we do, like you're doing, interview change makers, people that have either made a change in their life in a positive way, are helping others make changes in a positive way, or are helping the world change through product or information, philosophies, etc., in a positive way.
Fantastic. And is that available just within the States, or do you have any of it up on YouTube or something that my listeners can look at?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, actually, lifechangeshow.com, all the shows that we have done, 460 or 80 of them, are all archived and all free at lifechangeshow.com.
Oh, awesome. My audience would love to go and take a look at that. Now, what's this call to service award you got from Barack Obama?
you know, what's interesting, and I don't know that I have time to look for it here. I just received an email yesterday, but I've been traveling so much, Jen, as I was telling you, that I haven't stopped to be able to look at it. And I just received one from President Trump. So
okay.
it's kind of an interesting thing to feel like, you know, that's why I say to have been in a you know, nobody sees me, I got to be noticed and all that, and then getting noticed from the highest office in the United States, and haven't had a moment to look at it and say, well, wait, what is this?
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, you're obviously making some massive changes in the field of mindset and wellness, I suppose. So how did you go from being a business corporate in the corporate world to doing Reiki and energetic healing and theta practitioner and all of that? How did you go from that? Was this just an add-on that you wanted to do?
No, that's actually a good question. Yes, I was inquisitive and interested, but this is something I dare say I didn't want to do. in a lot of ways like the book, The Little Dog That Could. The book, as a matter of fact, is being considered for a movie. And when one of the producers asked me, why did you want to make this book? My honest answer was, or why did you want to write this book? My honest answer was, I didn't want to write this book.
Okay.
Because it's about an experience that was traumatic and dramatic and at the same time very beautiful and very magical. However, when I look through the book and I wrote it as I remembered it, I see how much I changed in the process. That I look back at the person at the beginning of the journey that starts off the book, and I think, who was that man? And so similarly, my father, who said you can't sing, said you have to become something. And so since I wanted to sing and there was nothing else I wanted to take into consideration, he chose engineering for me and said, you're going to become an engineer. Well, somehow I was able to parlay something I didn't want to do. And I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot. It helped balance my brain, left brain and right brain, and balance my life in many ways, which I didn't know it would do at the time, and I didn't want to do. So I was able to do well enough to get noticed by the third largest company, IBM, at the time, and get hired by them and quickly move through the ranks of the corporation and find myself absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And starting to get sick and having accidents, and I landed in the hospital after one car accident, and I'd have people tell me, your soul is crying out, and I didn't know what that meant, and I needed to find out, because being sick, being hurt by accidents, quote unquote, and being a miserable person was not how I wanted to live the rest of my life. So I began to seek. And so these esoteric arts were where I started to find answers, much like you and I were talking about what you have been finding before the show.
Yeah. So they were more a teaching tool for you to be able to figure out what you needed to change. To be able to find that, I suppose, that purpose, because when you were doing the engineering, did it sort of become monotonous, sort of became just a job that you went to, you didn't have the passion for it?
You know, the study of engineering, it was actually difficult for me, and it was interesting that I did have a friend of mine in school who used to help me with my study on occasion. And one point he said something brilliant. I don't even know if he knows just how brilliant that moment was and how it affected my life. But he said, Filippo, it's easy. Look, you just this. And I said, how could you say it's easy? I don't know what you just did. And he said, actually, it's easy for me. But then again, I can't do what you do when you stand up on stage and you sing or you talk or you make people laugh. I couldn't do that, and you make it look so easy. And I think at the time I probably responded, well, that is easy. So bridging gaps is something that I started to understand was one of my fortes. So I didn't like studying engineering, and I didn't think I was very good at it, but I did okay. And being able to explain to laymen or customers at IBM what this equipment was about, or this software, or where the world was headed according to IBM and technology and all that at the time, I was able to do that. And so I was bridging the gap between the engineering world and the scientific world and the corporate world to the layman or the customer or what have you. So I started to excel in that area. And in a similar way, when I started studying the esoteric arts, I thought, well, no wonder I've never been interested in this stuff. I find it fascinating. But when I saw some people walking around, all being woo-woo or being, having to dress a certain way and having to talk a certain way or wear certain jewelry, and that none of that attracted me. But but what I was learning was fascinating, and I thought, what if somebody who looked like everybody else and talked like everybody else happened to know this stuff and be able to share it with everybody else who doesn't necessarily do yoga or dress, or wear a bindi or jewelry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what that started to intrigue me, and now I'm enjoying being one of those bridges in the world.
That's awesome. And you've got a number of workshops, haven't you? The recalibration, what's it called? The recalibration workshop.
Right.
Yeah. And
right.
What's that one about?
Well, so the recalibration, again, back to childhood. I've been a life coach now for at least a decade, maybe a dozen years or so. And sometimes people say, that's really brilliant. And I several times have said, actually, I'm glad you think so. But I used to think like this as a kid. So I don't know that I really, that I really deserve that brilliance. I either came with it or something. A lot of what I've used has been with me all my life. So as a child, not only was I inquisitive, I used to ask myself, how do I do this differently and all of that. And I also used to look at the changes. When I was heavy, then I lost weight. I saw how people treated me. I saw how I treated myself. I saw how I felt about myself. And then I'd gain weight again. And then I'd say, well, why am I gaining weight again? Oh, well, because I didn't like it when people were treating me this way when I was, and I'd actually think these things through. Now, they didn't always work for me because I hadn't developed them into tools yet, but I was noticing them. So when I'm on stage and I'm singing, they're paying attention to me. These are the same people that and actually the same people in school that would tease me came to the plays, and they were there quiet listening to me, and some of them underneath their breath in school saying, that was a good job. And then they'd call me a name, because that's the game that they were playing. And I'm thinking, but I got them for that hour or that moment or what have you. So I'd look at all of this, didn't know exactly what to do with it all. So change was always fascinating to me, and what do we do with it? And it's interesting that we learn a lot of things in school and in university and all of that. But the one constant, the one thing we all go through that we don't have a class on, and we're never taught, how to change.
Yeah.
How to change, how to create change, how to accept change, how to foresee change. And so what the recalibration is developing into is potentially part 2 will be all of that. In the meantime, there has been so much change in our lives that we have not been able to take time, most of us, to assimilate the changes that we've really gone through. So we have potentially a husband and wife whose kids have grown up and out of the house, and for the past 20 or so years, they've been parents and they've been busy with their kids, and they put them first and making sure there was enough money and food and blah, blah, blah. And now the kids are gone, and they don't know who they are, much less who that person is they're living with, because they haven't really looked at them for 20 years. They've been focused on the kids. And all of a sudden, a recalibration needs to happen of, who was I when I met you? And what was I looking for? And who were you? And what did we do in this time frame? And how do we feel about that? Are we proud of the work that we do? Because now that we're a couple and we're by ourselves, and if we hated what we did, that's going to color the relationship. If we loved what we did and we know it, that's going to color the relationship. If we want to have a relationship with the kids from here on, if that's possible, that's going to change the relationship. So that's an example, but that's a big example to illustrate the fact that on a smaller level, there's the person who got married too young, or had children young, or didn't have that chance to get married, and maybe they never wanted to, but maybe they thought they were supposed to. So they have to now recalibrate and go back and say, do you see how it actually was a good thing that you didn't get married? Because you never really wanted to, but you thought that's what you were supposed to do. And so now you've lived your whole life saying, I never did this. Oh, incidentally, it was something you didn't want to do. But what we're holding on to is, I never lived up to that part of the expectation that my family had or society had or what have you. And I'm actually happy about it, but I don't even know that.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like a fantastic program. And you've got obviously a lot that you're doing at the moment. So if you can pick one thing that you're most excited about, what do you think that would be?
Well, at Life Changes Network, because it incorporates everything that I've just talked about and so much more. I've never been the person who could do just one thing, because I wanted to do more than one thing at once. And that's when I found myself to be more engaged and more excited and ironically more present, because with less time, when I'm focused on the show and I'm interviewing somebody, that's all that's in front of me. And so we'll get the best that we can in that moment. But then when I'm focused on a client or the recalibration, or I'm writing my second book or doing an interview on the first one, it's about that. And I love that.
It's all about focus, isn't it, really? To be able to do multiple things at once. But I'm the same. I like to have lots of things on the go, but you make sure that you focus at the times that you need to focus. So
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Now, I often say goals and intentions are used alongside each other. So how would you define the difference between the two? And what would be one goal and one intention that you've set for yourself recently?
I saw that you were going to ask that question, and I thought, this is a brilliant question. And what I was hoping is that my unconscious mind would work on it between then and now.
But it hasn't.
Because I thought, I really like this and I appreciated it so much. So let's see where it goes. To me, the goal is academic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a child, because it's sometimes we think academically about children, like we have to get them to school and we have to get them fed and then we have to get them to go to bed, and we think academically about them. So the goal is to get the child to bed, and to get the child to get up in the morning, to get the child to school. The intention is for the child to be healthy, for the child to have a good education, for the child to be emotionally balanced, for the child to feel loved. I don't know that one can set a goal for having the child feel loved, for having the child learn the most positive from the world that they can get. We can have goals around it. Like I intend to have a goal today of spending at least a half hour with the child, but my intent with that half hour would be for the child to know that the child is important to me, and hopefully I'm important to them, and that they can feel safe and feel loved, and that we can move our relationship forward, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, that to set a goal for that, it seems too academic, and the intention really has to come from the heart. And therefore, in conclusion, my unconscious mind said the goal is in our brain, the intention is in our heart. How'd we do?
Oh, you did brilliant. Now, can you? Your unconscious mind came through for you, Filippo.
Thank you.
So what's one goal and one intention you've set then?
For me, my goal is, for example, for the show to grow in numbers. The Life Changes show, for the show to grow in numbers, to grow from a radio show to a television show, or at the very least a video show, and a live show. And a live show that we do around the world. And yes, I'd even love to come to Perth someday. So let's add that to the goal. The intention for the show, whether we're doing it now and in our studio on the radio, or we're doing it on TV, or we're doing it live, is for people to feel in that moment that all is well in their world, in the world, or that all has the potential to be so. And the more, the reason is, the more I have felt like this moment safe with you, knowing what you're going to ask me, and also knowing that your intention is to put good information out there to help people and doing good for the world. So whether every time I have felt that way, beautiful things have happened, and it feels like I've grown an inch, so to speak. I've expanded a bit through these connections. So, and thanks to you through this connection. So when we do our show, the intention is for us to be as open as possible, that people feel like they're amongst friends, amongst family, that they too could relax, open up, and grow an inch, expand a bit, and from that place have a stronger foundation to do even better for themselves and everyone else around them in the world as they move through life.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I like to do with the podcast, is that's why I say I just like it to be a conversation, because I think it's really important that people see the real us, and which is awesome. So okay, so alongside goals and intentions, I believe habits and routines are critical to our success. So what would be one habit or mindset strategy you've implemented which has had the most impact on you?
Well, we touched on it, and it's the biggest of them all, and there's also the corollary to it. So that we haven't touched on except through the intention of the show. So the mindset would be that of I am safe. I love myself. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do to love myself more, or to accept myself. And that's been a big challenge. And just in case, and I don't think your listeners would necessarily think this, but it's actually not a lazy thing to do. Like, I don't have to do anything in order to be loved. No, it's almost like a birthright that I am loved. I am loved first and foremost by me, or if somebody has a belief in higher power or in higher self, I am loved by God, I'm loved by my higher self, and I am loved by me first. I believe if we don't love ourselves first, then we don't really have love to give. And so it becomes academic if we think we're giving love to people, but we don't have it for ourselves. So the second part of your question, I just lost my train of thought for a moment.
Oh, they were habits or mindset strategy. So you've given us your mindset strategy. So do you have a habit that you implement every day?
So yes, I also have a habit of looking to what I could do for someone, for something, whether it's through my writing or through the interviews. What if I've given the opportunity today to do something for someone, or for a group of people, or for the world, or our show, or what have you? What can I do to make this better for all?
Fantastic. Okay, now before we go to the ad break, can you please give my listeners a couple of tips that they're able to take and implement today that will help them enhance their own mindset and well-being?
Absolutely. The first and foremost, I would ask that we look at ourselves. We can't know the world unless we know ourselves. Mm-hmm. So looking at the world, we are looking through our filter, our lens, where we're shining the flashlight in a dark room, so to speak. And so The room could be big and vast, but if we're only shining a flashlight in a dark room in one area, then that's all we're seeing, and we have no idea what's going on in the rest of the room. So people could say, well, the world is like this. And I say, well, the world is like you were thinking it is. I just came from a weekend workshop that I co-facilitated last weekend. And at the beginning of the weekend, somebody said, the workshop is about this, this, and this. And they were telling somebody that they had the idea wrong. And after this person said what they said, I didn't want to make them wrong. But I said, you're absolutely right about that. That is exactly what the workshop is for you.
Yeah, for you, exactly.
And if you know that, then that tells you something about you. And it also tells you what you may or may not get out of the workshop this weekend. But the workshop is something altogether different for every single person in this workshop, including the co-facilitators, and oh, by the way, including the instructor. So I say, look to you. What are you noticing in the world? What are you noticing in your friends? What are you noticing in your life? Whether you like it or you don't like it, notice it. And notice the patterns. If you're noticing a lot of good in the world, chances are you are good and focused on good. If you're noticing a lot of bad in the world and a lot of bad in your friends and a lot of bad in your life, chances are that's what you're focusing on inside of you. And the good place to start is to be kind to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so that's one tip. Do you have one more for us, Filippo?
I sure do. As we then start to look outside the world, and we're starting to notice, the good or the bad, I say that there cannot be peace we cannot wish for peace in the world if we don't have peace in ourselves, but also peace in our immediate relationships. It's easy to say, oh, I want there to be peace in the Middle East, or I want peace, and we can pray about that. But when the person walks in front of us and we yell all kinds of obscenities at them because they looked at us the wrong way or what have you, it's that peace, that PEACE, it is that peace that is needed in the world first and foremost. And if we could effect that between us and somebody that's right in front of us, then that has a chance to trickle and affect the Middle East or anywhere else we want it to affect. But it starts right in front of us. First within, which is the first one that we talked about, and then on the outside of us with the person that's right in front of us.
That's awesome. So first tip is to look at ourselves, because we can't know the world unless we look at ourselves first. And the second thing is look for peace within our immediate relationships and create that peace within our immediate relationships. Because with a lot of volatility and a lot of anger, then, like you said, you can't help create peace around the world if we don't do it within our immediate relationships first. So that is awesome. Okay, intention seekers, please stay tuned, because after we get back from thanking our sponsors, we'll be heading into the Fast 5 round, where our guest will answer 5 thought-provoking questions that will hopefully inspire and motivate you to begin making choices that will move you towards fulfilling your purpose in life. Are you wanting more money in your life, greater health, or even an amazing partner? If so, I have incredible news for you. Using the 12 laws of the universe, you can do just that. You can start to obtain that wealth you're looking for, begin to heal the health issues you're dealing with, and find the love of your life. I am such a passionate believer in the power of manifestation, and therefore I have created as many resources as I possibly can for you to grab a hold of, including my new Mastering Manifestation with the Law of Attraction podcast, my free 30-day manifestation course, which is found at freemanifestationcourse.com, and also this amazing new premium manifestation course, which can be found at themanifestationmanifesto.com. I am so excited about this course because you'll not only learn about the 12 laws and how the different parts of the mind work to manifest, but you'll also learn about principles of manifestation, roadblocks stopping you from manifesting, and amazing techniques you can use every day to really accelerate manifestation. If you're really wanting everything that you desire, then learning how to manifest is an absolute must. I hope to see you inside the course. Remember, visit freemanifestationcourse.com for the free 30-day course or the manifestationmanifesto.com if you're really serious about starting to manifest today. Okay, Filippo, so now we have come to the Fast Five round where I ask for very quick but concise answers that may help motivate my listeners to also make changes in their lives and to begin reaching for the stars. So what would you define as your purpose in life?
My purpose in life is to live my best self and experience, and in so doing, I enjoy narrating it, and so sharing the tips and the tools that I learn along the way.
Fantastic. And what was the last thing that you've done which has put you outside of your comfort zone?
Last night, I met with some people and we had a conversation about intimacy. It was a very intimate conversation, and the group of people that started this conversation all had a different relationship with intimacy and a different relationship with each other and ourselves. Getting intimate with a group of people that weren't used to it was extremely uncomfortable. And what ended up coming out of it through the difficultness was a discovery of ourselves in that uncomfortable situation, and a further understanding of each other. It ended up being a very beautiful thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and 3 things you're grateful for today?
Well, I am grateful for this interview. Every time that I do this kind of interview where the host like yourself is open to the conversation as opposed to just, quick answers that are written in my book or that I have a course about, I get to explore and expand even more right along with you and the listeners. And so I am grateful for this opportunity, Jen, to do this with you.
And I'm grateful you were on today.
Thank you. And the second thing I'm grateful for is that experience last night that I co-facilitated because it was something that I had never done before. It wasn't my expertise, but I rose to the challenge, and I was not only proud of my work, but I was proud of the people that wanted this to happen. And it was uncomfortable, like I say, but sometimes we are rewarded by going through the uncomfortable stuff. But I wouldn't recommend it to anybody that, unless you have somebody that can guide you through it until we all learn better how to do it. So that would be the second thing. And the third thing is I have been traveling a lot, and I have more travel to do before I end up back home. And what I am grateful for is that at every step of my travel, I have an opportunity to meet with either people I know or people I don't know, and experience something good, something that feels lets me feel at home in every situation. In different towns, wherever I am, I feel like I'm either with family or with friends, whether I am officially or not. And that to me signifies what I try and bring to the table. It's being reflected to me, and I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. And one day you'll have to come across to Oz so that we can catch up.
I love it.
Yeah, that'd be
I look forward to it.
Awesome. And if you can recommend one book about mindset, what would that be and why?
Well, I'd have to recommend The Little Dog That Could. And that is the book that I authored. And the reason is because as I've gone through the book, editing it, making sure the I's were dotted and the T's crossed, and I didn't get them all evidently, and neither did the editors, so go figure.
We never do.
I kept going through the book and saying, oh, that's what the book is about. And then I'd go through it again. I'm like, oh, that's what the book is about. And I'd keep learning each step of the way. And it wasn't intended to be written that way, but I've come to find out that other people are experiencing the same thing. They'll read it twice, they'll read it 3 times, and the book ends up being about something different. And the reason why I think is this. Like I said, I didn't want to write the book. Number 2, it was an experience that happened to me as if it were orchestrated into the perfect play or the perfect book, and all I had to do was write down what happened. And finally, since I did not want any of this to happen, at least so I thought, the story is from a person who is reluctant, who doesn't want to learn, doesn't feel like he needs to learn, doesn't have time to learn. And so it picks up, even subtly, so many of our own personal excuses as to why we don't need to go there or meet this person or do that or change careers or what have you. And little by little, I'm shown in the journey, and the reader is shown throughout the journey, how this unreluctant hero changes in the process thanks to the love of a little dog.
Awesome. And finally, if you were given $1 million and you had 30 days to spend it, what would you spend it on?
Oh, that's easy. So the Life Changes Network has so many projects that it has started, including a foundation that does all kinds of, at the moment, random acts of kindness for people. And so growing the show, helping people through that, and the live experiences and the foundation, that's an easy one for me.
Cool. Oh, well, so thanks so much, Filippo, for joining me today. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I think at another stage I'll have you back and we can delve even deeper, because you've got so much to share. And Life Changes Network is making a massive change around the world, and the Life Changes show. You said you've got 400 and something episodes?
480 maybe.
Oh my gosh. And how long have you been doing it for?
We've been doing it coming up on 9 years. We've done once a week, every week for almost 9 years. We've never missed a week. And in the past 4 years, we've incorporated some life-changing musicians and music. So every week we feature a guest like you here, and then a musical guest who performs live on our show. And we get to share a little bit about their life-changing stories. And it just, being a musician myself, it just makes the show one of my happy places.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a really good idea, because, I mean, music makes so many people happy. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, before my daughter ends the show with a very special inspirational message, please let my listeners know where they can find out more about you, and then we'll say goodbye just for now.
Wonderful. Okay, so we talked about the Life Changes Show, and lifechangeshow.com is where they could find all of our archived shows and our future shows, for that matter. The Little Dog That Could is the book. Of course, it's available where books are sold online, but thelittledogthatcould.com is where they could learn more about that. The Recalibration is that. Therecalibration.com is where we could do a workshop in a town near you, as a matter of fact, for a corporation or organization or a group of individuals who want to experience that. Therecalibration.com. And then finally, the Catch-All, where I am as a singer, because I just have to put it out there because it's a beautiful, fun thing to do, but also as a life coach and a speaker, is all at Filippo Voltaggio, Filippo Voltaggio.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining me today, Filippo, and we'll catch you later, okay? You have an awesome rest of your trip.
You too. All the best to you, Jen, and thank you for what you're doing and for having me on. Look forward to hearing your daughter.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, before we get to my daughter's inspirational message, let me ask you, are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck, dealing with suboptimal health, or struggling to find the love of your life? If you are and you'd like to obtain all the health, wealth and happiness you could ever hope for, then I have an awesome offer for you. Not only do I have my new podcast, Mastering Manifestation with the Law of Attraction, but I've also created a 30-day free manifestation course for you so that you may begin to attract everything you could ever desire. To get access to this free course, please go to freemanifestationcourse.com and get started today.